The worst generals of the Civil War, Part 3. Most agree on the worst leaders of the Civil War. Pickett, McClellan, Sickles, and Bragg are often mentioned as the top suspects in this category. The political generals, those cashing in a favor from high ranking politicians, and those seeking higher office are the ones that appeared most often in this category. However, there are others. Here is part 3 of the Civil War's worst leaders. If you agree or disagree, let me know. Number 7, Ambrose Burnside. Burnside, he of luxurious sideburns and whiskers, stood 6 foot tall and was an imposing figure in his uniform, sash, and sword. Alas, the handsome general was a better recruiting poster than he was a commander. Burnside had the good fortune to experience modest success when all the other Union generals were falling on their faces. In 1862, he captured some sand on the coast of North Carolina. While the troops remained behind to battle sand fleas and mosquitoes, Burnside joined his friend General George McClellan with the Army of the Potomac. At Antietam, Burnside, with nearly a third of the entire army available to him, was unable to solve the basic tactical problem of crossing a bridge under fire. It took him nearly all day, and when he was within striking distance of victory, his attack fell apart when General A.P. Hill arrived to drive him off. While he had some successes, his shortcomings as a commander led to several significant failures. Here are some reasons why I feel Burnside should be considered a bad military leader. The Fredericksburg Campaign. Burnside's most notorious failure came during the Battle of Fredericksburg in December of 1862. Despite having numerical superiority, Burnside ordered a series of costly frontal assaults against well entrenched Confederate positions, resulting in a devastating Union defeat and heavy casualties. His decision making during this campaign was heavily criticized for its lack of strategic vision and regard for the advice of his subordinates. Lack of flexibility. Burnside was often inflexible in his approach to military operations. He tended to stick rigidly to his plans, even when faced with challenging circumstances on the battlefield. This lack of adaptability limited his ability to respond effectively to unexpected developments. Poor communication. Burnside had difficulty communicating and coordinating with his subordinates. He struggled to maintain a cohesive command structure, leading to misunderstandings and breakdowns in communication during critical moments of battle. Inadequate leadership. Burnside's leadership style was not inspiring or effective in motivating his troops. His soldiers lacked confidence in his abilities, and he struggled to maintain the morale and discipline of his force. Ambitious but unsuccessful. Burnside was ambitious and sought command positions, but his military record did not match his aspirations. Despite his efforts to rise through the ranks, he failed to achieve significant military successes that would have justified his high level command roles. While Ambrose Burnside's military career had some bright spots, particularly in the Western theater, his failures and shortcomings as a commander during critical moments in the Eastern theater overshadowed his accomplishments. As a result, he is more often than not remembered as a bad military leader during the American Civil War. Number 8, John B. Hood. Hood actually doesn't belong in this category completely. Up until 1864, Hood was one of the Confederacy's best division commanders. As a combat leader, he was superb, and his reputation as a fighter only grew as time went on. His Texas Brigade was one of Lee's elite fighting units, and Hood was always in the midst of his unit in the most brutal fighting of the early years of the war. He was such an inspiring leader that men would chant his name as they advanced into battle. Hood soon became a division commander in General Longstreet's First Corps. As a division commander, he still displayed the fire and aggressiveness that made him a great combat leader. His troops spearheaded the attack on the second day of Gettysburg. There he was wounded in the arm, losing the use of the limb. But that did not stop him. He was soon back in action and led Longstreet's attack at Chickamauga. He was wounded in the leg and had the limb amputated. Even this did not slow him down. Promoted to lieutenant general, Hood took command of the Army of Tennessee in 1864. Here are a few reasons why I feel John B. Hood was a poor military leader. Costly campaigns. Hood is best known for his disastrous 1864 Tennessee campaign, also known as the Franklin-Nashville campaign. His aggressive and risky tactics led to significant Confederate losses, including a devastating defeat at the Battle of Franklin and another at the Battle of Nashville. These military setbacks weakened the Confederate positions in the Western theater and hastened the end of the war. Disregard for casualties. Hood's aggressive and often reckless approach to military engagements resulted in high casualties among his troops. He was accused of prioritizing offensive actions at the expense of his men's lives, leading to unnecessary and unsustainable losses. Command relationships. Hood's relationships with his subordinate officers were strained, and he had a reputation for being difficult to work with. His confrontational leadership style created tensions within the command structure and hindered effective coordination. Lack of strategic vision. While Hood displayed tactical skills, his strategic planning was often lacking. His aggressive campaigns in Tennessee and Georgia did not have a clear overall objective, and his decisions sometimes lacked proper consideration of the bigger picture. Ineffective in command. Hood was promoted to a high level command position despite limited experience at that level. As commander of the Army of Tennessee, he was unable to effectively lead and organize his forces, leading to divisions and disarray within the Confederate Army. While Hood had moments of courage and determination, his shortcomings and failures as a leader have led some, including me, to consider him a bad military leader during the American Civil War. Number 9, and this may cause some controversy. The man himself, Robert E. Lee, was a bad leader, and here is why. Robert E. Lee is a complex historical figure, and opinions on his leadership abilities vary. While he is often celebrated for his military skills and tactical brilliance, some argue that he had significant shortcomings as a leader. Here are some reasons why I consider Robert E. Lee a poor leader. Overly aggressive strategies. Lee was known for his aggressive military strategies, which sometimes led to costly and high casualty battles. While his boldness achieved some early successes, it also exposed his troops to unnecessary risk and attrition. Failure to adapt. As the Civil War progressed, the nature of warfare evolved and new tactics and technologies emerged. Some critics argue that Lee failed to adapt his strategies and tactics accordingly, leading to unnecessary losses and hardships for his troops. Inadequate logistical planning. Lee's army faced significant logistical challenges, including shortages of food, supplies, and ammunition. His inability to adequately address these logistical issues hampered his army's effectiveness on the battlefield. Communication problems. Lee sometimes struggled with communication and coordination with his subordinate commanders. Miscommunications and misunderstandings at critical moments impacted the outcome of battles. Failed offensives. Lee's attempted offensive campaigns outside of Confederate territory, such as the Maryland campaign and the Gettysburg campaign, did not achieve the desired results and resulted in significant losses for his army. High casualty rates. Lee's aggressive tactics contributed to high casualty rates among his soldiers. While he inspired loyalty and bravery in his troops, some argue that he did not do enough to preserve their lives. Defense of slavery. Lee's association with the Confederacy in defense of slavery is a subject of criticism. While he was a product of his time and societal norms, his defense of the institution of slavery is considered morally reprehensible by many in modern times. It's important to note that evaluating historical figures like Robert E. Lee requires a nuanced understanding of the historical period and the challenges they face. Lee's legacy is a subject of ongoing debate among historians and scholars, and opinions on his leadership can vary widely. While he had some military successes, his failures and shortcomings as a leader during critical moments in the Civil War have ultimately led to the failure of the Army of Northern Virginia and eventually the entire Confederate Army. Like and follow for part 4 of America's Worst Civil War Leaders. It's your history. Learn it, know it, love it.